We begin with the latest in South America. There are growing fears that a conflict could break out between the U.S. and Venezuela after Donald Trump issued a statement stating that the Venezuelan airspace should be considered closed entirely.
There's not a lot of pushback because, again, it is the Congress itself, not the president, that actually declares war. But what we're seeing right now is much of the policies are now being flipped on their head, and it's the president who is moving full speed ahead with an invasion in Venezuela. But again, not many people know what that looks like or what will be the true cost of such an invasion.
Trump's comments were made on social media earlier today, adding fuel to the already growing tensions between the U.S. and the Latin American country. Trump and his administration have ramped up attacks on what they call drug smugglers on ships coming out of the country, alleging that President Nicolas Maduro is supporting the trafficking of drugs. Maduro's administration has denied those allegations. Earlier this week, Trump repeated threats to begin bombing land-based targets in Venezuela. American fighters have also landed in Puerto Rico, joining a growing buildup of American military presence in the Caribbean. With me now is Anthony Seaboyer, a military and national security expert. Anthony, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is ramping up, and we have seen a significant escalation, not only just of troops, of ships, when it comes to the American presence in the Caribbean, but now also the rhetoric, clearly from Donald Trump. You know, what's your read on how serious this is and where this could go in the coming days and weeks?
Well, to me, it's very surprising. A democracy threatening another sovereign nation. Trump has no jurisdiction over Venezuela. He can't close the airspace there. This just moves, in my view, the country, the United States foreign policy more towards that of a country like Russia that's just threatening an independent country that, for a reason, I mean, really the question is, why would this happen? Yes, there's a drug problem. Yes, the U.S. needs to really work on preventing more drugs from coming into the country, but this is clearly not the way to do this. This goes in the face of international law and really would harm the U.S. reputation as a clear guide and order in the international stage, on the international stage.
Now, what do you believe, too, at least at this point, you know, the reasoning behind this? Understand that Donald Trump is focused on drugs. We've seen that even along the Canadian border, too, with the fentanyl crisis and citing that for the tariffs and what has led up to the trade war now between, the two countries here. So is it something about drugs in particular, or is there something else behind this, do you think?
I think there's more behind this. If we look at the Canadian case, the threats there and the numbers that he gave were just had no basis in reality in terms of what was actually coming in from Canada across the border. I think it's similar here. We're seeing extrajudicial killings. That's what this is. At the end of the day, there's no due process for those on these boats that are attacked. This all flies in the face of international law, and that really risks, relations with allies and relations, just how we're doing international interventions at this point. So it's really worrying, I think, for us.
And I guess that's my other question for you, too, is as we talk about, those allies and we talk about Canada or otherwise, or Mexico, other Latin American countries, is a possible conflict here going to drag any other countries in, do you think? Are most of them going to be like, no, we don't want any part of this? Again, depending on what happens and whether there's actually, some sort of invasion or otherwise, how do you think that plays out?
Well, I think at this point, it's not really clear what's going to happen. We know that Trump's, famous for announcements like this. It's certainly aimed at generating an effect. It may very well have domestic policy issues. We know that Trump's approval rating now is at the lowest in this presidency, at 36 points. And this has always, been something that U.S. presidents have, tendencies towards using foreign policy to distract from domestic challenges. This might very well be what we're seeing here. That speculation, though, at this point, what's clear is there's a clear military buildup. The threats are increasing, and we do have to take this very serious. But this would be such a breach of international law that it would very much harm U.S. reputation and have consequences for allies that have to consider how are they working together with a country that thinks it can attack sovereign nations like this.
Right. Well, again, we'll watch it very closely. Anthony Seaboyer, military and national security expert. Thanks for your time today, Anthony.
Thank you, Matt.